Hey guys, welcome back to another semiconductor update. Today we are going to take a closer look at a few companies. We're going to obviously look at my favorite semiconductor, Nvidia. We're going to take a closer look at the overall semiconductor market. We do have some great reports coming out. And we're also going to take a closer look at the manufacturing and the memory market. So let's take a closer look in today's episode. So the first good news I want to say came out from Semiconductor Industry Association. They just released their monthly report, and it does seem like global semiconductor sales increased 1.9% month to month in August. What I do believe is pretty amazing about this is the sixth consecutive month of month to month market growth. So obviously we are still in a down cycle compared to a year ago, where sales are down roughly 6.8% year to year. But if we take a closer look at this chart,
finally, I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for the subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode.
here's a better image. We can take a closer look. The blue chart is the revenue, the red chart is the year over year changes. And if you are looking at this, you might notice that the blue charts, the semiconductor market is very cyclical. And that's why people always say the semiconductor is cyclical. But I do believe it brings bad rep to the semiconductor industry, because we can see since 1996, even though this market has been cyclical, it has been in an uptrend. So you tend to get lower lows and higher highs each time. And for me, a cyclicality like that is more than okay. Another thing that you might have noticed outside of that is that there are some big cycles. You can really see the big cycles when there's a peak, and then we kind of see the bottom of it, and then kind of a new cycle begins. So we did notice the peak earlier in 2021, and we kind of saw that bottoming happening here. And now it seems like we are starting a new cycle. So now I do want to say, between those big cycles that we're seeing, there are small cycles in between. Those small cycles is one like here that happened in 2018, 2019, where the bottom ended. We start to see a pull up, but then things start to go back down. I do believe these cycles right here are true buying opportunities, because investors are worried that this cycle is going to be another big cycle. So I do believe maybe we can continue to see maybe a few more months, maybe a few more quarters of a nice upcycle, but then we might start to see a slowdown, and everybody's going to be like, hey, look, I told you the semiconductor is bad. We're going back to newer lows or whatever. And that is going to create a lot of fear in the semiconductor space, which I do believe is going to give us a lot of great buying opportunities. So I'm going to definitely be waiting for that. And if we don't, obviously, I have a nice amount of positions in the semiconductor space. But I do believe this chart can really showcase how the semiconductor industry as a whole goes. Some other important things to know is we are seeing month-to-month growth in big places like Americas. Even China grew on a month-to-month basis. On a year-to-year basis, the biggest downforce is China, obviously, because their economy is not as strong as many would have expected. So that's what I really have for the overall semiconductor news. I do believe that's great for the overall semiconductor market. Next, I want to take a closer look at some news about a supercomputer. So Europe exascale supercomputer is starting blocks. So there is going to be a new supercomputer in Germany. It's going to be called Jupiter, and this will be their first exascale supercomputer in Europe. This system is going to be designed for simulation and AI applications in science and industries alike, and is expected to launch in 2024. They do mention that the cost of the system and its operation for an expected 6 years is roughly 500 million euros. Some great news. They also did kind of talk about who the GPUs and the CPUs are going to be manufactured by. So the CPUs is actually a company in Europe, which is called SI Pearls, so Silicon Pearls, I'm guessing, which make processors made in Europe. And they're usually meant for kind of high memory bandwidth and kind of energy efficiency. So we do see, I feel like I've seen other supercomputers with this processor. We've talked about it in the past in this channel. For acceleration, though, they are going to be using, you guessed it, Nvidia GPUs. And they do mention that this the company that's going to be making this supercomputer will integrate this solution into a liquid cooling platform, which they call the X800 300. So pretty exciting here about the supercomputer. Obviously, big win for someone like Nvidia. Obviously, Nvidia is super excited. I do believe the overall market is green right now, so Nvidia is trailing a nice 1.8% with the market. Continuing here with Nvidia, we did hear reports that a startup company, Machina Labs, secures $32 million in investment to revolutionize AI-driven manufacturing. Some of the big players investing here is obviously Nvidia. Nvidia continues to invest a lot in AI companies. For those that are not familiar with Machina Labs, I wasn't familiar with them. It's a company that's trying to build manufacturing, but with AI. They do mention that, where do I have it? I have it somewhere around here, that Machina Labs combines the latest advances in AI and robotics to deliver finished metal products in days, not months or years, and gives customers unprecedented time to market and competitive advantages. So overall, they are a huge kind of AI team where they kind of program all these robots to kind of manufacture some crazy things. They do mention that they work with a lot of aerospace and defense companies. For example, they mentioned Lockheed, NASA, U.S. Air Force, Yamaha. So pretty interesting, and their kind of machines and small team is pretty crazy. It's pretty interesting to see Nvidia invest into them. Next, I want to take a closer look at some news from ChatGPT. But before we do, guys, I do want to say thank you for the support. We're about to hit 3.2 thousand subs in this channel. If you haven't, make sure to hit the thumbs up. Make sure to hit the subscribe button. If you want my weekly exclusive videos, make sure to check out my Semiconductor membership. Click join to learn more. Special offer at fool.com/Jose. Free newsletter at josenaharo.substack.com. And free semiconductor news at semiconductorwatch.com. Now, turning back to ChatGPT, there are reports that ChatGPT owner, OpenAI, is exploring making its own chips. And this is not something new, right? NVIDIA GPUs are so expensive, and everybody has to find a way to kind of combat that expense by maybe focusing on building their own AI chips. We've seen all big techs really kind of focus in this space one way or another. Now it does seem like ChatGPT is exploring that way with maybe a potential acquisition in the future. But that's all we have right now based on insiders and industry, and kind of sources within the industry. I believe as an NVIDIA investor, I'm not worried at all. NVIDIA is going to continue to dominate this market one way or another. Now, if we take a closer look at some news from the manufacturing world in the semiconductor space, there are reports that Samsung and TSMC are reportedly struggling with 3 nanometer yields, according to a Korean business news publications. Now, this is pretty interesting. They are also saying that, hey, look, Samsung might be doing a little bit better than TSMC, but again, I'm not 100% sure. Something to keep in mind of, but it is important to note some great things here is when Samsung is doing their 3 nanometer, they're actually going with the gate all around kind of method, while TSMC is still using the FinFET technology. So I do believe it's pretty interesting how Samsung is shifting ways, and it kind of gives us maybe expectations of how hard kind of continuing to get smaller chips is happening right now. Big players like Intel are also focusing in this space. If we take a closer look at TSMC is sitting at roughly $89. I've been talking about TSMC right now. I do believe in forms of valuation, this one was sitting at a great price in the past month or so, below that $90. So I am super excited about future investments in TSM. Now, the final company I want to take a closer look at is Micron Technology, ticker MU. Right now, the stock is up roughly 1% as I am recording. What's really happening with Micron is yesterday they did announce their initiate constructions on their leading edge memory manufacturing fab. So this is going to be the first manufacturing fab that they built in the past 20 years. And it's going to be built here in the United States in Idaho. So they are announcing that they are beginning that kind of construction. So pretty exciting. But this kind of construction is going to take some time. The clean room space in the new fab is expected to come online in 2025, with DRAM production wrapping up over the second half of the decade, maybe sometime in 2026, 2027, when the industry demand is growing. But pretty interesting. Obviously, the Semiconductor Act, the CHIP Act, is getting a lot of manufacturing here in States. I hope that continues. So overall, these are the topics I want to take a closer look at here in the semiconductor space. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Take care, have a good day, and see you next time.